you guys get to vote.
We do.
Jake,
I called you back last night.
Thank you.
We had.
It's getting back here.
Where is it? You still on it?
Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow morning for our meeting.
So again, that one is in
Oh, Andy, right?
different one. That one's going into
Is Austin gonna be here?
first phase.
I thought,
Second
did
phase.
somebody tell me that he was
is
down in,
Judge Hall, which we really need to look for. Is that where it is?
no, never mind, it's somebody else.
Engineer.
It's Christina Kress and Jonathan are down in Cancun.
That's a whole
I didn't know where they were. I knew they were on
That's the
that.
one in Pigeon Lake.
Well, I,
And I know Leroy Sturry wants to do the second. It starts there, and goes through all.
I'm there.
Yeah.
Slash.
So he did
That's a board member.
produce some preliminary.
Okay, so we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, good, we can do it.
Awesome. We're live, by the way.
And Austin's gonna be
But-
too.
Is he gonna reduce some of the flooding back there?
Yes, he's gonna add potential power.
Yeah, recorders.
No, why? I have 9 on our board. We have more than 5. We have to have 5.
Let's get 7.
Thanks, Jim. I didn't mean to
Yeah.
interrupt.
No, you're fine.
But see, he said 5.
So
You gotta have 5.
yeah, and for elections,
Gonna put your.
the winning candidates have to have.
Probably had a virus or something.
Right?
Correct.
I mean, so if there's 2 people that run and each of them only get 2, we have to either downsize or vote again. Somebody gets competitive.
And if we can't get,
I got a pen.
if we can't get it done, it just carries over to the next pencil.
Okay, good.
Let's turn your mics on.
I
Mr.
have,
President.
Landon turned mine on.
Why don't you vote again?
Yeah, once I get kicked out, escorted out of the building. Okay, so let's call the meeting order for about 2 PM.
Okay, ready for a roll call?
Let's do it.
Austin Boudreau, Karen DeForest,
Here.
Andy Laughlin, Jake Bryant,
Here.
Colt Ridenhour,
Here.
Christina Kress, Jim Slaybaugh,
Here.
Landon Brown,
Here.
Jeff Rhodes.
Yep, I'm here. Thank you. Okay, so we'll start, call to order, roll call, reading and approval of minutes. So thanks you guys for getting the pack of minutes out. We probably didn't get Jake and Colt copies of that.
I did via email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just so that's procedure, you guys can't vote on them because you weren't at the meetings. But yeah, so we've got 4 sets to approve.
I don't think without Austin, you can't approve them then, because you'd only have 4 of you.
Oh,
That's right.
Technically, you can vote even if you do not attend the meeting.
You can, but you just
can vote. You may not feel comfortable doing it, or you may not want to, but you can vote.
Thanks, Don. Okay, so let's, so that kind of puts you on the spot. Colt, I don't know if you had a chance to approve them, but again, if you don't feel comfortable voting on them, so it is, it's,
I said, I definitely haven't had a chance to
Okay.
look through them, so.
no, and which is perfectly fine. We had been kind of struggling with them for a couple of meetings, actually, so. The only thing well, let me entertain a motion to approve. We can do one at a time if you guys want changes on each of them. We can do that, or
let's
if
just
we
do
want,
them.
if you want to, yeah, I mean, I'm making the assumption everybody's read through them.
I'll make the motion that we approve as is all 4 months, September, October, November, December.
Okay, so moved by Karen, second.
Second.
By Landon, thank you. Any discussion on the motion? The only thing that I asked for was that going forward, if we could put the YouTube link into the minutes, just, that
Yeah.
people have it, because more people are seeing them via email, so they can click on it, they want to go verify the video then.
Yeah, that's just an easy copy paste anyway, so yeah, it's easy.
Good, okay, so any other discussion or questions on the motion to approve minutes? None, seeing, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Those opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Thank you. Tara, thanks for getting all those done. So I know we did. We talked a lot during those meetings. Okay, so moving down here, Chairman's report. So we do. So we got a few updates. And I guess we'll cover the HPG down in the interlocal agreement draft section. Okay, just the ETJ section. The other things that I've got, obviously, I had a great one-on-one with Councilperson Kress, who's going to be our new council appointee on Tuesday. She wanted to have a meeting before she left, knowing that she couldn't be at this meeting. So we had a great one-on-one to kind of give her the rundown of what we've accomplished, what we've got on the docket for our issues right now. She asked a lot of great questions. When she gets back, we'll coordinate with her, Andy, and the staff to do a kind of a briefing and a book pass off. She was excited about that. She'd also asked about getting a copy of the Blue Book. Can we get a copy for her? And just, again, she's got familiarity with the statute, capability of that. But then I'd also, Dan Crusoe asked to be involved with that as well. So we'll coordinate schedules. He doesn't want us to hold it up, but he had said when we have that meeting that he'd like to be planned. So I can help coordinate that. Okay. Anything else or questions for me from a chairman's perspective? None? Okay, let's move on. The city county liaison report. We've got Austin's, but Jeff, is there anything you want to
Well, we're
add?
not having a meeting this month, February,
Okay,
so I wasn't at the other one, the last one.
okay. So for Jake and Cole, the way that, so we're here, in the county, the Angola Plan Commission has their own board. They meet once a month. And Jeff is the appointment from that board to us, non-voting. And then Austin, who sits on this board as a voting member, he's assigned to them as a non-voting. So then we've got some nice communication going on and we thumb wrestle over some issues, and we've got one on the agenda that will kind of fill you guys in on more as we go. Okay, thanks, Jeff. Any questions for Jeff? Okay, so everybody sees a copy of Austin's report. This is from their January meeting. And you can see basically what we do is we get an idea of the things that they've moved on, in their plan commission. And it's the same thing. They vote on those things and it goes as a recommendation to the city plan commission and then, to the mayor for signing after that. So I'd seen the president and Jeff told me that Susan had taken over as the chairperson there, but you can see Susan Ralston, who, again, she used to represent the ETJ, kind of on the board, and that's what her appointment was. So it's kind of neat that she's ascended into the chairmanship there. And obviously with Rita, she runs the plan commission for the mayor's office and she's their secretary. But we can submit that as a report into the minutes without objection, I guess. Okay, any questions? Okay, see none. Let's go to Mr. Slabaugh for the drainage board.
The drainage board, as far as,
Anything you want to tell us
I don't
about
know, there's some good stuff going on. The Hamilton Lakes Association actually volunteered to work with me to do a study down on Black Creek, if you will. And it's approximately, what is there, a couple miles of ditch, I think, in there?
Yeah. Well, and then they have the tributaries to it.
That runs directly into Hamilton Lake. So this will so they're gonna do some studies on it, a bunch of water testing. So this will kind of prove the truth versus some of the speculations that were made against some of the farmers out east and the confined cattle feeding operation and the pollution that supposedly is happening. So, and they're paying for it all too. So,
Yes.
which is really, really good. And it'll just kind of hopefully ease the tension between the farmers and some of the concerned citizens. So, yeah, it's a good thing. And that's actually happening this week. So they actually picked a really good week to do it, other than maybe tomorrow. But the weather's been cooperating and so it's been good. So.
Okay, so does that tie into your effort with Leon Wegler and team too? Okay, they don't,
No.
they haven't heard about that part of it yet?
No.
Okay, Do you have anything to add?
No.
From that perspective?
No, it's just,
Okay.
I was just involved because of the Lakes Council, so that was it.
Okay, good.
Jim, who's setting that project up?
Oh,
Cheryl Silverheart?
there we go.
See?
She's good.
She's good. Okay. Any other questions for our surveyor friend? And I realized I had said what I was gonna do and I didn't do it. Are you done with your report?
Yes.
Okay, so if I could go back and, if there's any objections, I can move it into announcements. But I was going to introduce our 2 new board members and have them introduce themselves and say something nice about themselves. Charlie, are we on right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, just so Cole, before you came in, I was telling Jake that, so we're live on YouTube. But yeah, so I was just gonna, ask you to introduce yourself. What's that?
We're not gonna get a million hits.
Well, but I hit it at least 25 times to get the number up. Just to monetize it, right? But yeah, so why don't I start, Jake, why don't you introduce yourself and then just tell the board a little bit about yourself and,
Mind if I stand or more appropriate to sit?
you can sit right there, yeah.
Jake Bryant, born and raised in Steuben County, from Fremont 13. Currently a local contractor as well. We're on the residential game, a little bit of commercial work. So hopefully to benefit everybody in here too, I get to see a lot of this firsthand with the consumer end of it, as well as suppliers and et cetera. Just me being an installer, applicator, stuff along those lines. So I appreciate y'all having me. Thank you.
Thanks, Jake. Cole, how about you? You're next.
Colt Ridenauer. I graduated from Rainbow in 13. So I've been local to the area, just east of town forever. Went to Purdue after that. I'm the extension liaison. So I went to Purdue, kind of moved around a little bit doing air pollution control stuff in my work, project manager, engineer, and then I came back and just recently started back on the farm in April. So I'm now looking for right now farms. So I'd be his oldest son, and me and my fiance are getting married next month. So
Wow, congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, the Ridenauer Acres is, kind of a landmark, local landmark, a lot of good stuff. Well, thank you. Thanks for joining. As I explained to Jake before you came in, that just because we have our council appointee and our commissioner appointee are not here, so Andy Laughlin and then Christina Kress, we're going to do next week after, we'll do board elections today. But the next week we'll have kind of a run through on what the board does. There's a few preamble slides that we used last year.
Next month.
Yeah, I say next week. Okay. We're not meeting next week. Next month, so that we can kind of cover that. You guys have got the books, so you can, kind of run through it. I can be available to answer any questions or any member on the board. The staff is great. So if you have any questions or anything, feel free to ask. It's a good board. We've got a lot of things accomplished, and even dealing with the few curveballs that we're in the midst of at this point too. So yeah, feel free to ask questions. We always have robust discussions. So let's go with that. Any questions for the gentleman from the board?
I'd just like to say we're always available upstairs. Just call first and I'll give you our cell phone numbers because most of us up there are office staff and inspectors. So we're in and out constantly. So call first. But other than that, stop in anytime. We'll go over anything with you. I'd rather do that than have you either confused or get blindsided.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Trial by fire. Yeah. Welcome, Austin. We read your report already. Okay, so we'll get back into committee reports. Well, let me just make sure. So no other questions for the gentleman? Okay. We'll move on to the plat committee. So we got a whole stack of maps from the recent meetings that we've had. How many does that cover for us?
That's 4 that we got in the meeting yet.
Okay, good.
1 from last year and then 3 new ones this year.
Okay. Which again, that board has been, or that subcommittee under this board has been, busy just redrawing maps, approving new maps, but good information. Nice having Karen and Jim serve on that board, and the work Charlie gets done so that we're efficient in those meetings. But yeah, so if anybody wants to see, that's what we got back here is a stack of maps with a nice pen to sign them on, so they still don't have my middle initial. That's okay. Okay, any questions about the plat committee? Board of Zoning Appeals.
We met last month. We had 3 things on the agenda. We had the election of officers and we approved the meeting schedule. And we have nothing for this month.
Did you guys see that the DNR sent the letter out about Crooked Lake?
Yes, yes, I've heard from all different ways, yes, yes, so.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I guess I really don't have a place in the agenda to cover that. Do we need to cover any of that, do you think, Clint?
I wouldn't think so, yeah. I mean, after the design review committee, possibly.
Okay, good, which is great. So I mean, do you want to give an update maybe on that? We'll kind of slide that in here.
Basically, they came, met with us, the attorney, the engineer, and the owner, and basically the meeting was they want to do everything by the book, cross all the T's, dot all the I's to make sure there's no issue with any kind of variance like we've had before or any issue with approval. So they're going over that. It's still preliminary. It's about as advanced a preliminary copy as I've seen, but it's still preliminary. And we set them up with a design review committee. I don't know if we have the date. There's a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of different departments and individuals involved with the design review committee. So nailing them down kind of takes a little while, a couple weeks usually. After that, we should have a lot more information and start docketing them.
I forgot one question. How many lots were they gonna have?
It was under the number we would allow, which I think was 36 or 38. So I think it was around 30.
I think it was about 30.
It was
30 lots?
It was under the max, yeah.
Okay, that
That's
was one of them that came up and I just thought of it when you were talking, so.
So yeah, just to give the new members, Crooked Lake, a developer, Danvers, they had, proposed putting more townhouses on Third Basin. Which that wasn't the problem as much as they wanted to put a dock system in. So there's a big DNR review of it at Pokagon back in October. About 300 people attended. So we just got the letter in response and the approval for them to move forward with their planning by the DNR. That letter just came out last week. So.
And then they've got 30 days to appeal if Crooked Lake wants to.
But who from Crooked Lake?
Association.
Right now,
Oh, they
Yeah.
are?
like
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah,
Really? Okay. So
and then they have a board meeting tomorrow.
So how widespread, I mean, is it the Crooked Lake Association itself or all those 300 people?
I just know I've been contacted and so I don't know who's meeting. I'm not gonna be part of that.
That's not you.
Yeah.
And then they have no elected officials in there either. We didn't have any elected officials at the DNR review and it a little cranky. Okay. Anyway, so those are the things we kind of watch from an ancillary standpoint. We get to deal with the DNR. Okay.
Well, but we'll still see this. Once it goes through the design review, it will still come to us.
Yep.
Prior to approval. So.
And the design reviews where they hit all like the utilities, so there could be easements. I mean, that could affect the number of lots. So we could go from 30 to 26. I'm just throwing out numbers here.
Yeah.
Because if some of those easement or accesses or the roads needs to take up a little more space, they may have to cut some stuff. I've seen that happen, but.
Yeah, we had a proposed plan by them and they said, yeah, this isn't it anymore.
Well, and they came through the BZA too for variance, right? So they wanted to decrease their lot size from 100-foot wide to 75-foot wide lots.
That's right. Yep.
For logistics is what the complaint was or the concern was, and it got turned down. So they're still back to the 100 lot width.
There's quite a lot of chatter against it. So I think we just really need to make sure that we know what we're saying.
As we step into it, yeah.
Yeah, because I've been getting leaned on a lot on this one
Really?
and it's all opposed.
Well, I mean, everybody in that room was opposed to it,
Well, I mean,
but now it's.
I've gotten quite a few phone calls and Austin has.
Just
I mean,
Social
it's
media,
crazy.
personally, I know a lot of the people over there and they know the role I'm in, so they're really leaning on me and, again, just, I think be careful what you say, because I think this is gonna be a hot topic.
Which is a good point, yeah.
Just so you know, we've already planned on having it up in the auditorium. I don't think this room will hold it time.
Wow, okay.
just so
Well,
I remind everybody, the issue is whether their plan meets the ordinance.
Right.
Not whether it's,
Favorable or not, yeah.
yeah.
Are they going to have the sound system done in the auditorium before then?
Well,
Because that was one of the things.
That's moving pretty slow.
Oh, okay, okay, never mind.
Probably be on spring or summer. Doesn't seem like they're in a massive hurry,
It'll be good.
the developers.
So who does
It'll be close.
Okay,
yeah, because that last meeting, was hard to hear people and yeah, so I guess we'll kind of play that by ear. But yeah, thanks, Austin. We should make sure that we talk about it, just like Don said, that if, all we can look at is, meeting the requirements that are in the current ordinances. So
Well, it sounds to me, and this is just awful, like they're going through the steps to try to make sure they're doing things the right way. So I suspect that when we see a plan, it will be a very well thought out plan that complies by all of our ordinances. And I think it should be a very cut and dry situation.
That's what they're going for. They stated that as their intentions.
I think at this point you have to, because you do have so much opposition, personal opposition. I don't know that I've heard of valid.
They're throwing around a lot of funneling terms that, they've kind of done their homework, a lot of the people that I've been speaking with. But like Landon's saying, I think it's pretty, as long as they do what they're saying they're going to do.
it should be interesting though.
I haven't really heard a thoroughly valid argument against it, especially after DNR's supported it.
Yeah, okay, well, good. So it's something to be aware of as we move forward. Okay. Any other questions about that? I guess we kind of threw that in there, but yeah, it's not gonna go back to the BZA.
No.
Okay, so unfinished business. So we've got the extraterritorial jurisdiction, the ETJ. This has been on our agenda for several months now. But it's an issue. Clay, you want to kind of just give everybody a summary of what the ETJ means?
Basically, ETJ is extraterritorial jurisdiction. So you have the city of, in this case, we're talking about Angola primarily, but we're dealing with all the other towns and stuff around the area as well. So every city and town has some kind of buffer around themselves. Angola has a full 2 miles.
I live in it.
You live, okay, so you know roughly what we're dealing with then. So it's kind of a no man's land where the city took it over for planning purposes, but Jim still has the drainage, Chip still has the highway. It's kind of a hybrid area. So what we're trying to work out, we try to get some kind of interlocal agreement to go through, because what's happening is if there's a complaint or a permit, and we do a lot of the addressing, which we're happy to do, but it kind of doesn't make sense because Angola's addressing system and our scheme is different. Odds and evens are on different roads and whatnot. So that's not a big deal. But what we're trying to work out is to get more representation and more, give me a word, Chuck.
I don't know, things to be actually taken care of for the people living.
Because a lot of
in the
times people
area.
call and then the city will say, well, that's the county, and the county will say, well, that's the ETJ, so we don't have any planning. So for instance, it puts us behind the 8 ball because we don't even know the color on the zoning map. I guess I could go on the Angola's website and look it up, and then again, I don't know all what's permitted and I can't allow stuff to go in there. So we're trying to get something worked out so we can be more responsive to the needs of the people in that area. But I just made it sound real easy other than my stuttering, and it has not been. It's been a real tough go of it with lots of meetings with the city and the county and different representatives. So hopefully at some point we get to where we can figure out what we're going to do with that.
And I'll also say Angola isn't unique, or Steuben County isn't unique. There's a lot of, I think just if we communicate better, maybe even, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
It's not,
sorry to interrupt.
no, but I think it's just kind of a common thing with ETJs and counties that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a communication issue, and it was a communication with personalities for a while. That, the communication wasn't flowing back and forth correctly. So, but there's some great examples that, former council person, now State Representative Tony Issa, he's got some skin in the game. Just because he was ruled against, but then, across the road from him is, still in flux because of that. So he's, he understands, and he wants us to address it. And I met with him a few weeks ago. And we kind of talked about it, you know, there's opportunity for it to, you know, be to them in the state legislature somehow, I'm not quite sure. But we've got an update from Ryan, that's here. So where we left it in December, well, even November, where we had the interlocal agreement, and it was a pretty extensive interlocal agreement that was worked on years ago. We shared it with the city, looking for them to just, you know, mark it up, you know, and it is, it's very detailed and extensive. They came back just saying no, with no recommendation. Like, seriously? So, Ryan, who represents us, and what's the name of the firm?
HPG, but I think it's something else.
It's 720
Yeah.
Oh, I get
Development Corporation.
There you go. Yep.
So, you know, so they're under contract with the county to help us and work with us, and they've offered to go back to the city and say, we need to start a conversation. And that's what this memo outlines basically, is that that Kim Shoup says, yes, we need, Kim Shoup, who's the attorney, similar to Don's role for us, but for the city. And at least they're willing to talk to us about it, but I'm not sure how much more talking, just getting an agreement so that we can start hammering this out. Because it'll work through us, but then it'll go to the commissioners for approval and how it, you know, finally is adopted. And correct me if I'm wrong, there was work on it years and years ago that was never enacted. So it was talked about, the interlocal agreement was discussed, bantered back and forth, but never enacted. Okay.
Yeah, nothing has happened at all other than talk so far.
And we went strong, you know, after the November meeting with the recommendation of them saying, you know, then, you know, we'll just pull the ETJ altogether, you know.
There's 3 different options that we could have done, and we started with the first one by sending Brandon to contact Kim.
So we, you know, and again, you know, nobody likes to have to, you know, push like that, but get people at the table so we can solve this, I think is very important. And it is, it's not because of what we do. I think we handle it well, they handle it well, but it's the residents that get a phone call and they call you and they don't know what to do. You know, but then, you know, the expectation is that, oh, you guys should just be able to, you know, pick up the code enforcement. But if, you know, like.
And that's the thing. I mean, it's not laziness or unwillingness. It's literally jurisdictional. I mean, we don't have the jurisdiction over that. We know, I mean, like I said, other things, well, Jim's been working well with Amanda Co, from what I understand. You know, so that's what's weird about it is when you look at it from an outsider or a citizen standpoint, we're like, wait a minute, the county takes care of some stuff, the city takes care of some stuff. You know, I don't get any right answers, and I get where they're coming from. That's why we're doing this, because to them it's very confusing.
I'll say that, but I talked to about it, they're like, dude, nobody even knows about it.
Yeah, right.
So, right, so they don't know who to call. I mean, we're working on start the process, but the process of building a house, and I'm like, I at least knew about it. So I called the city first, but I didn't know.
Yeah, you mentioned ETJ to a general citizen out there and they just give you that confused dog look, like,
No,
exactly.
They don't think city limits end at what, 100 or whatever it is. They all go out to 200.
Yes.
The biggest thing that's going to be on our radar that will definitely benefit if we get this finished is the Serenova project, which after the last meeting, there's nothing on the table yet for the ETJ portion of their property, but there's no way the plans they've got that they don't have something that's going to be ready once they wrap up their next step. So
I agree with that.
having this thing done could be a huge benefit for what it is that they're planning.
I agree with that.
If you don't mind, can you give us a 10-second rundown of what the Serenova project is? I've never.
Dustin Nelson's.
Oh, yeah, out there behind Meyer.
Yep.
Okay.
Seeing the house gone behind Profet was weird.
That is weird. It can happen quick.
It's like you look and there's like trees in the way background. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, because it's.
Does anybody know what's happening with that or what they want to do with this?
So the staff report that they filed was excellent. Did we get I had a copy of the Serenova staff report from the city. Did you guys
Jim
get
knows
that?
a lot about it right now because he's working with the drainage part of it. Jim has, because when I go to drainage board, they came and presented.
Yeah, so the front part of it, again, phase 1, which is basically the far east side of Walmart and Meyer's detention pond. That's the first phase. That one's gonna be revamped. The ditch is proposed to be closed. There's gonna be a 5 or a 6 foot diameter culvert going through there. But again, that watershed goes to Lake James. That scared some people from Lake James. However, every business that goes in there is going to be responsible for their own water testing.
Two water tests. They've already done completed water
they have,
testing
okay.
last year. Well, Saranova completed water testing, and then they have follow-up water testing they're gonna do subsequently annually. And then each of those businesses are required to do 2 water tests.
And it'll be good too because
Or just the front end? Okay.
there'll be there's talks of them landscaping that as far as the
But this is all city.
well,
This is, I mean, none of this is ETJ yet.
Right.
It's gonna be the phase 2.
Yeah,
yeah, so phase 2 though, again, is the far yes, the far east side. I mean, the second part, that's gonna be phase 2, and that one runs over to Pigeon Lake. So again, there's gonna be some nice detention ponds in there. There's talks of, water fountains and stuff like that, just to clean the water, to help filtrate it and stuff, so.
Yeah, like I said, I'll see if I can find the report, the staff report that the city did. It was excellent. I mean, probably one of the most extensive I've seen.
We have not gotten a copy of that, but like I just told Charlie that everything we've mentioned so far is in the city limits, so we wouldn't necessarily get one anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I mean, it was the due diligence that, Ken and his team put into it, then the city, backing it up. Yeah, it was good. And it talked about the phases like that. So I'll see if I had a copy of it. I'll look to see where I got it from, and we'll add it to the record so that everybody can get a copy of it. Okay. Any questions about the ETJ and the status where we are at this point? I guess we'll just keep on them and hopefully the city will respond. Is that kind of where we are then, Clint? Okay, if nothing else, we'll move on to the stormwater ordinance draft update. So we haven't been able.
Yeah, this is basically, I talked to Ryan with HPT about an update mainly with the ETJ and the stormwater draft, and this is what we've got. So I'm gonna have to talk with Greg and Brandon basically, because last I knew Brandon was making edits and that was pretty much it, where they'd left off.
And I think Greg approved, at least in general, with the edits. I don't know if you looked at it yet or not, but Greg approved or agreed with at least the edits that what direction they were going. I'm sorry, brain fog tonight. I'm trying.
Okay, any questions for the stormwater ordinance draft standpoint? And so is it in the book for these guys? Have they seen?
Not the draft, no, not that, but I can email you guys a digital copy of that. It's pretty extensive. It would be the size of that book
It's the
already.
state model ordinance.
But it doesn't have any of the corrections.
No, I can get the most
Because we
recent
still
edit,
haven't
yeah.
gotten the corrections one either. 'Cause
I know they
that hasn't
tweaked.
changed.
I know they tweaked some and we had an edited copy, but I don't think we've had anything beyond that, what you guys have already seen.
Okay.
Is there anything, so then we've got, Austin, are you participating in the meeting tomorrow?
yes.
Okay, so I mean, does this affect that at all?
Totally different animals.
Okay, it just, we're talking about water and, yeah.
Tomorrow?
I mean, we're talking about some of the water issues, but
The way I think of the stormwater issue, and I'm going to way oversimplify it, is, water coming off a roof when you're looking at DNR, and check dams and FPGs and whatnot, flood protection grids, sorry.
I just think of the trip we took to Clear Lake and saw, blacktop, rolling downhill to cement, through a cottage to the lake. That's my memory of it. So,
Yes, that'll be your stormwater right there.
okay, good. Okay, any other questions about that? Okay, so the interlocal agreement draft, I guess, so we're kind of back to square one, but we've got copies of what our interlocal was, and I guess that's really not going to change before the cities. Should we combine those two?
Yeah, I could make extraterritorial jurisdiction / interlocal agreement draft, because I mean, they basically are right in the same camp.
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing, we didn't have a draft agreement until November, so we can, I think we can combine it, okay? Any questions about the interlocal agreement? Any other recommendations that we should pass off to Ryan and team?
One thing I want to say again, and I've stated this several times before, we got a couple new members. A lot of the interlocal agreement, because I worked on it originally, is taken right out of state statute, out of the blue book.
Right.
Which that confuses me on the blanket no and not looking at it, because I'm not saying we can't make some tweaks and changes. I'm not saying there's not room for improvement. But the only concern is we just can't go and make serious changes, because then we might not be in conformance with Indiana code, which is one of my main concerns always, you know. But
Do they use that 2022 version of the Blue Book at all?
city?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I mean, so you see our board and then you see the municipal version of the same board. So you guess that they
have to operate under those rules and guidelines. So whether they're versed in it is not, I have no idea. So,
interesting.
I would wait until, the powers to be, otherwise known as Kim Schaup and our attorney meet, so that they could ferret out what's going on.
No, that's absolutely what we're waiting for. Hopefully that can be sooner rather than later.
Okay, good. Okay, moving on.
Real quick before we move on, just a question. Whatever came of, and maybe, I don't know if you reference this is your meeting tomorrow, the DNR issues that we had with not only our insurance, but also like enforcement and regulation.
That's tomorrow morning. We're meeting with FEMA and IDNR.
So it's still been tabled, like nothing has been.
So far.
Okay.
And all we're aware of about tomorrow, the only info they've given us is we have one outstanding elevation certificate. We know from dealing with the surveyor, who's just falling upon hard times right now. We know from him that it's good to go. There were just some numbers transposed or something on the original. It is a backlot garage at West Otter Lake. So in my opinion, that's what they're hanging their hat on. And we are having this big meeting with DNR and FEMA. I would expect some surprises. We're like, haha, and then I don't know what to expect, other than that's all really they've talked to us about.
Yeah.
But nothing ever came of the stack of permits and things that the
We
DNR.
cleared everything up. This should be the last
Yeah, there's
one.
only one thing.
Cleared it up.
Yeah.
And this, now we're just waiting on the surveyor, and the surveyor, who we know, Gasperline. Yeah, he's a good surveyor. We know him very well. He
Again,
said
not,
it's good.
not the counties, not me.
Yeah.
No, a surveyor, a private surveyor.
Thank you.
He said it's good to go. He just hadn't been able to work on it. He had some family issues come up.
So what about the enforceability? Like I remember, if I remember correctly, they were wanting to throw all that into our laps.
They're still wanting to, as far as I know.
So-
And like Jeff mentioned, we would like if they're gonna do that, find a way to give us some money, some extra enforcement, find a way to clarify. Because, Cody, he can't be out looking at docks, seawalls. I mean, we got one, what was that one complaint where they called us out, it was for pea gravel?
Yeah, you can't put pea gravel in there without a permit.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they deemed us on it. We're like, I didn't know
We've done
they
that
put pea
before,
gravel
too.
in
I've seen
there.
it.
I mean, that's one of those things where we
No.
don't just drive around and look at stuff. So.
Well, you guys wouldn't know if you just walked down there. You don't know how much pea gravel and what the depth is and how far it is from the shoreline and everything else. I mean,
I got yelled at last time I said it, but technically everybody's supposed to have native grasses so tall, 10 foot from the shore. And apparently one person in the county does do it, but,
and then they get in trouble because they didn't mow their grass or whatever.
And then that
Yeah.
conflicts with other parts of our ordinance. And the DNR told me, well, you need to change those other parts of your ordinance. I said, well, first of all, I don't have that authority personally. And the way the board's going right now, I don't think they're going to agree carte blanche with whatever you want to do to change the rest of our ordinance. So.
No, and I described it before Austin came in, that, yeah, we've kind of had to push back a little bit, but we've got the legislative support, so yeah, whether or not there actually is, anything done, but Dave Abbott and Smalls, I guess they're both good water people. So Tony was gonna rely on, whether or not it gets to the legislature that way, I don't know. Okay, good. I was gonna say one more thing about that. I lost it. So Okay, so, oh, no, I remember, we were gonna add something else to unfinished business.
That would be that draft that we got out, but I think we said something about tabling it for the next meeting, because Andy and Christina would be here, just to have a full board discussion. I think that was where we left off, but I sent out that AFO kind of draft ordinance to everybody. I'm not sure if you've gotten it yet, because I just added you to that group, but I can send it your way.
Yeah, we should make sure that we've got Andy's county and Christine.
I do have Andy's County, yeah.
There's an
I've
extra
had that
copy.
for years
Here's an
now.
extra copy.
Yeah, so it makes sense to table until they're here.
Yeah.
But yeah. Something else I was gonna say. But I guess the one thing we can say, and I'll say it here, is just that, so that's a result, and I guess we can put it on unfinished business, the final closeout of the subcommittee meeting we had, designed to take feedback from the concerned citizens versus, the farmers and the residents about the farm feeding or animal feeding operations. Kevin Stockwell, even at our last meeting, came with some recommendations that help clean up the definition. I can honestly say that, I think we ended the subcommittee in a good spot. But then the staff working with Kevin and cleaning up some of the language was, again, kind of above and beyond that you guys put that together. So
And this is with Kevin's input.
Oh, we got everything. I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, I just,
We probably wouldn't have felt comfortable moving forward.
yeah,
Because there's some stuff in there, like I said, there's a 45-day time limit. And this really means nothing other than my planner brain. 90% of everything in our book, or even 100%, temporary is 180 days. It's pretty common across the board. This has temporary is 45 days. One thing I don't know, and where we have to do more research, or you all have to do more research before you vote, if you're comfortable with it, or if we do anything with it, is 45 days important for the cattle industry? I'm not a farmer. I'm not a combined feeding guy. I don't know. So to me, I would, if it was just me ruling the world, I'd cross out that 45 and put it 180. But there's got to be a reason it's 45. So that's the kind of stuff, I think when we get into it and we start discussing it, this is where you people are going to be very involved in deciding what this actually looks like. And again, we're one of the 17 counties that already go above and beyond. They keep getting mentioned, 17 counties. Well, we found out in the last meeting, we're one of them. So whatever.
right.
So this would be above and beyond the above and beyond, which is fine. We just need to make sure we know what everything means in there, setbacks, as far as distance goes. 45 days being temporary, then we probably need to drill down on that stuff and make sure it makes sense, because enforcement's going to be difficult to begin with anyway. And to have something like that where we're not meeting industry standards could make it much more difficult. So.
Yeah, and Austin, you weren't here at the meeting where we had that report done. It was after the subcommittee.
I did not join the subcommittee.
Yeah, but
No, but we had a report afterwards.
Yeah, so Jake Cox and his team presented the Purdue study again for 2016. And again, we were open to, writing a piece of, an ordinance rewrite that would get to the commissioners. But
I read your summary.
okay, good. Yeah, and I think that, where we've left it now is that this is above and beyond. So this even pushes Steuben County even to the top of that 17 list a little bit. Which again, I think, again, that's a great effort from the staff, and then, great recommendation from Kevin and his representation, but your feedback, Paul Longdale's feedback, and really the way that Kevin presented is like going, he agrees with it.
Right.
And he's willing to stand behind it. It changes his business a little bit, but he feels that that's, kind of.
That was the new law that was introduced down at the state, was to have it, or does it yearly. That's instead of every 5 years.
So again, I think it's a great effort, and they didn't necessarily ask for it. We kind of put it back into Rick Shipe's lab saying, Rick, work with them to
And
come
that
up.
group.
Yeah, come up with something that, that would be passable by the commissioners, but I think this gets there. We should probably just figure out how to circulate that. But again, and Andy knows about this as well, right? But yeah, we went pretty deep with this with Councilperson Kress, and she's.
Andy's been involved. I think it was Andy, Austin,
Charlie and myself were at the meeting with Ben Smalls. Is that who? Yes.
Yeah, he said we got him on our side, but that Schmaltz's response was not in line with what we were talking to him about, if I recall right.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, I was very surprised.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we've seen the end of it either, just from the conversations that I've had with a couple people that are now commissioners. I don't think we've seen the end of it yet.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna come back.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
I think this is a great first step
right.
to get it going.
It's a discussion.
Yeah.
Rather than having nothing. And again, I don't fault anybody because, again, how do you begin the process to write an ordinance? You gotta have something. And Kevin had it. Okay. But yeah, and I do, again, Kevin is not only a farmer, but a business person. So he understands from important standards. Okay. So let's add that to unfinished business then for next month. Okay, good. Anything else for unfinished business? Troubles? Okay, new business. So we've got, this is the first meeting, for the year for us. So as part of our bylaws, we go into electing board president, vice president, and appointing a secretary. And if there's no objections, what I'd like to do is kind of reverse the order. Then I can preside over the appointment of the secretary and then the vice president. And then, for the board president, I mean, obviously, what's that?
Dawn, that's that part.
That's all right, you can do it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, for all three?
That's, well, for the BZA.
You could do all three if you want.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I didn't remember how we did it last year. It just was sprung on me.
Sorry.
No, I've enjoyed it. So, okay, so the way that, so I went through, our bylaws are just, you will hold, we are, what was that?
No, the chair is on. Just chair issue.
So the way that we'll do it, so starting with the secretary and then, like I said, through vice president, the president, what we'll do is a motion and a second to open nominations for the secretary. After the nominations are made, it'll close. Then a motion can be made as to how we vote on it. And the way that it can be voted on is a voice vote, a roll call, a unanimous consent, or a paper ballot. So a person can make that motion and how that's done. There's a second, and then as part of the discussion, then each a nominee will give, their pros and cons as whether they'd like to do it or not do it. That'll close, and then we'll vote based on the motion. And then that person will be involved as the officer at that point. That make sense? Good summary?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So let's start with that. So the position of the secretary currently held by Mr. Slaybaugh. I don't know, Clint, if you want to give any rundown, just what that means.
He's done an amazing job of being secretary. He's always been there secretarian when we needed him to. I can't, it's only in the case of like a tie or something that he actually really.
No, it's primarily, what the secretary does is if there's an appeal, the secretary has to sign the documents that go to the court, so.
We haven't had any of those, so.
So he's hasn't had to stand up and have Don defend him. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to open nominations for secretary.
Would like to nominate Jim
Well, so move and then second and then,
as a motion.
okay, so moved. Second to open the nominations.
Second.
Landon's gonna second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, it's open nominations for secretary, and I'll just entertain them from the floor.
We just did.
You just did secretary.
That was for nominations for the secretary. I'm sorry, this is complicated. It doesn't need to be this way. We did it different last year. That's why it got confusing. So now the open nominations for secretary. So who wants to be the secretary? Or who wants to appoint
You've already
somebody?
made the motion and approved it, so you can't do open.
No, it's, the motion was to open the nominations.
Just re-nominated.
Okay, Jim, I would like Jim.
Okay?
Second.
Any other nominations?
It's not a vote, sorry.
Okay. So then we make a motion to close the nominations for secretary and second.
Can I make a motion that we keep the current officer slate?
Got a motion. Motion pending. So
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
voting for the second, so.
Yeah, so,
To determine whether it's a second.
So I'll make that motion.
okay,
Second.
okay, motion to close the nominations, moved and seconded. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, so secretary, so now what we do is we can, a motion to unanimous consent to approve Jim as secretary. If there's no objections, Jim can be accepted as the secretary. Unanimous consent,
Yes.
second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor, unanimous consent for Jim Slaybot to be secretary for 2025, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Okay, so now, yes, I would hope that somebody would like to streamline this.
Yeah, can I make a motion that we continue and keep the current officer slate for the president, vice president?
So moved, is there a second? Okay, moved and seconded, discussion on the nominations as the rest of the board. So it would be Karen as vice chair and myself as chair. So I'll open up for any discussions, or if anybody has questions for Karen or I in that motion.
You want my input on this one? What I will say, I work with Jim every day. He's very involved. But what I have dealt with Jeff and Karen, they've been very hands-on in the most positive, awesome way possible. You've done this for 20 some years like I have. You have some presidents and vice presidents that are very hands-on in the most negatively horrible way possible. They've done wonderful jobs. So for the two new guys, we've got a pretty good group.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion, questions? You want to say anything? You'll take it is what we're saying. Okay, I'll do it as well. No, my comment is just, yeah, I've enjoyed it. I've learned a ton. We've had some great issues. Some of the goals we set last year at this time have kind of been pushed back just because of everything else that's going on. But no, I appreciate everybody's patience and as I've kind of learned how this works a little bit. But I appreciate the opportunity, and the staff has been great. So thank you. Okay. Okay, so there's a motion on the table to accept the rest of the board leadership as is. No further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Done. So thanks. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Okay. I was hoping that we would learn how to streamline, so that was good. The last thing for new business is the calendar, which is showing up on the screen at this point. And yeah, so nice work to highlight the couple of the variants that we've got from a scheduling standpoint around holidays. Do you guys want to describe that, or do you have any questions, Karen? 'Cause I know.
No, and it passed through the BZA, so I would have had questions then.
Okay. Where did you get that?
They sent it to us.
So yeah, I put it in the front sleeve of my book so I can keep
They
track of
sent
what
it in
they.
December to us.
Sorry.
Does this look right to you now? Because I know you had.
Yes, and
Okay.
the only thing that came up was that the BZA was about September, and we already passed it by the time the question came up, but I'm fine with it.
I would make a motion to approve the 2025 Plan Commission meeting schedule.
I'll second that.
So moved and seconded to approve the calendar as published at this point in draft form. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor of the meeting schedule signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We've got a new schedule, so we can publish that.
And on the site.
Yeah, so that's good. Moving right along then, announcements. Anything, any announcements from board members? I guess we typically don't have announcements every month, but any questions or announcements that we've got? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Second by Landon, to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Those opposed? We're adjourned. Great meeting, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I was excited.
So no February BCA meeting.
We're always right. So, Charlie, can I
How
ask
did
you
you
a
bring
question?
that?
So where is Christina?
Down in Indeed.
Okay. Jake is actually her cousin. I didn't know that until today.